Hi everybody, this is Matt. Today we're working on one of our fire rings. This is going to be a wildlife based. You can see the deer and the trees and everything. But we're going to talk a little bit about how we do it and what makes a fire ring. All of our fire rings start out as a 1 foot by 6 foot sheared off piece of 14 gauge sheet metal that we then roll up and weld out. Laying one of these out is fairly simple. First thing I do, I clamp a piece of old C-channel to my table. Gives me a good place about waist high to work on our fire rings. And then pick your design. Get your design on there. I'll show you a comparison. I like to lay one out using a paint marker, and preferably yellow. You can see this nice Sharpie, but Sharpie works for following a template. It gives you a very good point. It doesn't run like a paint marker does. The yellow paint marker gives you good visibility, and when you get under a shaded lens, you really need the visibility. So that's why I recommend a paint marker. White is okay too, but yellow gives me the best visibility. And after you get started cutting on one of these lines with the yellow paint marker, it'll turn white where you burn the color out of it, so it'll still be visible. That's why I like yellow. Anyways, we have our plasma cutter today set up. We got the Everlast Power Plasma 50, running 19 amps. Air pressure set right around 70, but when you start cutting it goes down to about 65 or 60. So that's about right where we want to be. Got it on manual torch, and we got it all set up. The torch, we're running a drag tip. I recently just picked these up. I'm still experimenting with them, still playing with them, seeing if I like them or not. Drag tip allows you to set the tip directly on the metal and drag it while cutting. You don't have to hold your own standoff. It'll automatically stand off for you. It's got little ridges. That stick down between the orifice and the surface to prevent you from burning your tip up. When you cut, you want long sleeves on. Definitely want a good pair of work gloves. I'm running Tillman driver's gloves. Really like these gloves. They give you good flexibility, good touch. And you want eye protection of some kind. These are not just typical sunglasses. These are actually 5-shade cutting glasses. You see the 5-shade. Now, we're looking at the Sharpie. I can still see paint marker. That's why I like the yellow. 5-shade is what I generally run. We only run 19 amps. That's plenty for this 14 gauge. You can probably even cut up to 1/8 of an inch with no problem with it. This machine will go from 19 to 50 amps. Cut up to about 3/4 of an inch easily with it. I like the machine very well. It's a very good machine. But I like to run a 5-shade for just generally everything I do. So we'll try to get set up here and make a few cuts. Okay, what will a plasma cutter cut? Well, I'll demonstrate for you. We got a piece of stainless steel round stock, a piece of mild steel flat stock, and a piece of aluminum flat stock. Start with the stainless. No problem. That is a very ugly cut. The stainless fouled me up, so I'll redo that. You want to keep the sparks blowing down. You don't want the sparks coming up at you. That means you are going too fast. And you got a clean cut. Now for the aluminum flat stock. And you hear that timed post flow. That's the air rushing right now. Now, that was 1/8 inch aluminum flat stock, 1/8 inch mild steel flat stock, and 1/4 inch stainless steel round stock. And we cut through the stainless. Now the mild steel I got fouled up with, but on the back you can tell I went a little too slow. That's what they call dross. That is essentially slag, if any of you that weld. But you can see the cut ripples. You want them to kind of be at an angle opposite of angle in the direction of cut, with minimal dross. Now aluminum's a whole nother character. It just gets going crazy on the back side. It don't really have dross. It looks more like just shreds. Best thing for dross that I have found, a chisel. But you have to clamp the piece down and use a hammer and deal with that. So my solution when making a lot of metal art is a nice air hammer. You already have the air hook up to use the plasma. That air chisel, you just get it right down, go behind the dross, pull the trigger, and it just takes it right off. I got this at Harbor Freight for $5, so you don't have to go spend a lot of money on them. And like I said, you already run an air hookup for your plasma cutter anyways. Might as well use it. But I just got done cutting this. You've seen that, barehanded, touching the metal. Now, if this had been oxyacetylene, you probably would have heard me doing some yelling, pouring some vinegar on my hand to help with the burn, and had blisters instantly. But the difference between this and oxyacetylene is, oxyacetylene, you are heating the metal to the point of melting, and you are blowing the melted portion away. And that creates a bigger curve for the area of cut, and it makes the metal a lot hotter. Now, we also would not have been able to cut these two with oxyacetylene. You could have if you know what you're doing, but it is very difficult. Steel is about the only thing you really can cut with oxyacetylene. As far as the aluminum goes, if you're cutting anything a little thicker, it does take a little bit more amperage because of the fact that aluminum is a heat sink. So it takes a lot of the heat and it'll disperse it. So it takes a little bit more amperage at times, but I cut all three of these pieces on 19 amps, and that's the same I'm using on the 14 gauge sheet metal. And that's the lowest my machine will run. Again, make sure you know what's below you, because you are shooting that plasma gas, and the air gap is not a problem with it like it is with oxyacetylene. So if I was to just cut this piece of steel, I would cut my tabletop too, and I don't want to do that. But you get an idea of what all a plasma cutter will cut. You can cut any of these. It's like I said, aluminum, stainless steel, mild steel. It'll cut anything that conducts electricity. That thing will cut because it needs that electric current arcing to direct the plasma gas, and the plasma gas will cut through anything. It just flat out does not care. It'll cut it. And actually, I'll tell you the truth, I bumped the trigger one time with it leaning against my hoodie, and yeah, I've got a big old hole in my hoodie, and I got a big burn mark / hole on my side one time from it. It does not care, it'll cut it. So just a disclaimer. Again, it'll cut anything that conducts electricity. And it cuts it fairly nice. I mean, it's not the best quality zoom right there, but it cut it fairly even and fairly nice. Now that was just freehand, one-handed. One hand's holding the camera, one hand holding the torch. But it did a very nice job. So we'll go ahead and cut this this design out, and we'll show you what it's like to use plasma on some detail work, and we'll talk about some tips for getting the best out of doing some intricate cutting, and we'll go over some freehand. Okay, we're getting ready to make this cut. You can see it's not a straight cut, so we cannot use a straight edge. I'm going to start up here, and I want to take out this little section. You can see I'm propping with a TIG finger just because the length of this cut, it will get a little bit warm. It's not necessary. I like it though because if I do want to go ahead and transition, it'll glide smoothly. So we will not plunge in right on the line. I'll start over here on a piece that's going to be going and plunge in. So we're ready and start our cut now. Now, the piece didn't fall away because there's a piece of C-channel right underneath that this is propped on. And that's why you saw some of the sparks blowing back at us. But you can see I like to pull towards me because I get the most visibility out of the cut. If I'm pushing away, I don't see where my tip's at from my angle. So I like to start up here a little higher and bring it down towards myself. That's the way I find to be the most accurate on cutting. Go ahead and start up here on the top and work our way down. So let's talk about some of the tips I gave today. Number one, make sure you can see. Whether you have to use a bright light or work light or something of that sort, it'll help when you have a shaded lens on. Also, use a bright marker. I like a yellow or a white when using carbon steel. I like to use red on aluminum. Just stuff that shows up really good. Don't use any dark colors or flat colors to blend in. And use a light enough shade that you can see, but dark enough it will protect your eyes. That's why I like to use a number 5 shade. Wear proper protective equipment. That would be long sleeves, gloves, and a 5 shade lens to protect your eyes. And get a good prop. Make sure you are steady, whether it be making a fist and resting your hand on that or using a TIG finger. What metals will a plasma cutter cut? Anything that conducts electricity. Thank you for watching. In our next video, we will talk a little bit about how a plasma cutter works and go into setting one up. Leave us a comment and subscribe for more.